Hi, after watching The Ideology of Jordan Peterson by Philosophy Tube and after reading Beyond Order, I feel I need to talk about it because I think Philosophy Tube only presented one half of Jordan Peterson's philosophy. So in this video, I'm attempting to give a fuller picture of Jordan Peterson's philosophy as well as my criticisms. According to Jordan Peterson, the world that we experience as human being is the world of value as opposed to the world of object or the objective world. So this is the layer of what is, and this is the layer of what ought to be, which we experience, which contains all the notions of what's good, what's right, and what's beautiful. He wrote in his book, "The true meaning of life is not to be found in what is objective, but in what is subjective, but still universal." This collective subjectivity lies in the world of value, and it could be revealed by stories, especially stories and mythologies that have survived centuries upon centuries. One story may not be any significant, but the patterns emerging across stories, across time, shows the value and the lessons that our ancestors have accumulated across centuries. Before we could read and write and have the method to disseminate information, it required a tremendous amount of effort to remember things and then pass them on. So the stories that kind of stick with us through millennia must be something valuable of wisdom that resonate with so many people and inspire them to tell the children from generations to generations. Trivial stories and not so valuable stories get forgotten over time. Abigail from Philosophy Tube called this phenomenology. Because Jordan Peterson emphasizes on the wisdom emerging collectively, he places a significant value on our social aspect, including our family, our friends, and our romantic partner, to keep us sane and grounded. In his words, we outsource our problem of sanity. There are many attempts since the rise of science to dig up the objective world to find the world of value. In the past, human beings relied on religions to decide what's right and what's wrong. However, as we progress with science and technology, we abandon religions and say it's stupid. We believe that without rationality, we could derive what ought to be from what is. However, as Nietzsche stated, to sacrifice God for nothingness. This is the paradoxical mystery of ultimate cruelty that remained in store for generations now growing up. We have traded God for nothing. We've traded God to stare at an abyss. Nietzsche also said that Christianity is a sickness though, just so you know. So many times you may come across when somebody asks Jordan Peterson if he believes in God, he simply just said that it depends on how you define God, or he acts as if God exists. My understanding is that because his belief in God is quite different from other people's, so it's hard to give a straightforward answer. The drive that makes us create God and the drive that pushes us to pursue the objective truth in science are the same. Perhaps using rationality to find values is not a good idea, especially after you read Nietzsche. So when Jordan Peterson said he acts as if God exists, perhaps because he believes that the alternative of God is something way more dangerous. Rule 6 in Beyond Order is abandon ideology. So when Abigail titles her video as Jordan Peterson's ideology, I see what she did there. So what is ideology to Jordan Peterson? Ideology begins with the hyper-simplifying term, for example, the rich, the poor, the nation, the people, the economy, the patriarchy, the oppressed, the oppressors. These terms fail to express the complexity and diversity of the people or the things that make up these terms. He also referenced a study that found the people who make up that minority, he means who possess the majority of the wealth, do change substantively regardless of the aforementioned class stability. So basically, when you criticize a certain class of people, for example, the rich, and you're criticizing the guy who were poor last month, but this month got rich because he sold Bitcoin, or does it include a guy who was rich yesterday, but today went bankrupt and now living on the street? Or where do you cut the hierarchy and say this is the oppressed and this is the oppressor? Is it the top 1%? Is it 1.5%? Or is it 10 or 10.25%? According to Jordan Peterson, the low resolution arguments that divides the world into the victims and the perpetrators, and the notion that all the good belong to one group and all the evil the other, are the problem. These two elements makeup ideology. This kind of black and white polarized thinking along with low resolution views creates resentment. Resentment occurs when individual failure or insufficient status is blamed both on the system within which that failure or lowly status occurs and on the people who have achieved success and high status within that system. I think to criticize something, we must understand it enough to have empathy for it, to know where it comes from, to know why it makes sense for it to be there, and then go on and criticize however you want. I took this advice from Bertrand Russell. In some cases, a system could be blatantly evil or stupid or both. However, it doesn't mean that the people who created it or sustained it are any more evil and stupid than us. We, each and every one of us, have the capacity for both good and evil. It doesn't guarantee that we would behave any differently from these evil people if we were put into their positions. So in a nutshell, Jordan Peterson's advice is that have respect for the system before trying to change it in a large scale. If you ever want to change a system because you see it as unjust or obsolete, you may do it step by step from smaller, more defined problems to bigger projects instead of vilifying a group of people and jump to a low resolution, black and white destructive solution. According to Jordan Peterson, order is not any more valuable or better than chaos, and vice versa. The best territory for us to be on is the line between order and chaos. In the territory of chaos, there are creation, the fairy godmother, and destruction, the evil queen. In the territory of order, there are security, the wise king, and tyranny, the authoritarian tyrant. In some interviews, Jordan Peterson said that chaos is archetypically female and order is archetypically male. So people got angry at him because they thought he meant women bad and men good. But if you're clear-headed enough, you could clearly understand what he actually meant. Okay, so now we have this map. Order, tyranny, and chaos destruction are two places you wouldn't want yourself to be in. So his previous book, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote for Chaos, are for when you want to move from chaos destruction to order security. And this book, Beyond Orders, is for when you want to move from order tyranny to chaos creation. One thing I want to point out is that the most famous quote from Jordan Peterson is clean your room. And the funny thing is every criticism regarding this meme-worthy clean your room by Jordan Peterson just throws away the other half of the sentence and this kind of argument.
For instance, I can't help but notice that if I did everything Peterson suggests, clean my room, take responsibility, yada yada yada, I would still be living in a country where I'm not allowed to get married, start a family, or get healthcare the same way everyone else is.
Keep on perpetuating the incomplete version of what he actually said. He wrote clearly in his book, set your house in order, okay, clean your room, before criticizing the world. Before, it doesn't mean that he said should not criticize the world. So if you are on top of everything in your personal life, then just go out and criticize and fix the world however you want. It simply means that you should be able to walk properly before you want to run. It's not that profound, it's just common sense. However, some people somehow are so irritated by it that they just cut the sentence in half and criticize the half that doesn't fit their political views.
I'm not suggesting in the least, and have never suggested, that there's no domain for social action. I'm suggesting that people who don't have their own houses in order should be very careful before they go about reorganizing the world.
Speaking of political views, according to Jordan Peterson, conservatism and liberalism are like chaos and order, change and structure, and too much either of these two is not good. Jordan Peterson also laid out 3 traps that we must avoid when we navigate through the map of order and chaos. And again, I'm frustrated when Philosophy Tube only presented half of what Jordan Peterson wrote, which is the resentment trap. The other traps that are equally important are deceit and arrogance. Resentment is the trap that you may want to avoid when you're on your way to change or dismantle a system. Deceit and arrogance are the traps that hold you in a tyrannical system. So to simply put, according to Jordan Peterson, if you're liberal and you want change, try not to make the change out of resentment. And if you're conservative, then you must be wary of the potential deceit and arrogance. So I feel like if you only cherry pick resentment from his book and present it without mentioning the other two, then it would give a wrong impression that Jordan Peterson is targeting only at the people who want to change and call them resentful. Okay, here come my criticisms of Jordan Peterson's philosophy. I have no objection regarding his rule though, because I think they are helpful. I still from time to time remind myself of some of his rule from his previous book, and I will definitely incorporate new ones from this new book, Beyond Order. I'm just gonna criticize his philosophy in general. Number one, interpretation of stories is subjective. Different people may interpret a story in various different ways. We may even interpret a story totally differently from the ancient people who told it and passed it on. So who get to decide how to properly interpret a story or which interpretation is correct? What if Hitler and Stalin get to interpret these stories and justify their ideologies? What if we interpret these stories to rationalize our worldview and we can't actually really see it under other light? And it's more like a mirror that reflects our flawed view of the world. Number two, what makes a story stick with us through millennia may not be because of its wisdom or its value, but maybe it's because of its dramatic effect and its attention-grabbing element. These days we tend to share more shocking and stupid things on the internet than any other thing else, and it's the shocking element that grab our attention. What makes you think that the ancient people are any less prone to shocking and stupid ideas than us? Anyhow, I think using stories and mythologies to peek into the world of value is a shaky ground, as shaky as other attempts by other philosophers to extract what ought to be from what is. And Jordan Peterson is not a philosopher, he's a psychologist. So I think the most valuable things he has contributed is his profession, his experience of treating and consulting people, his interaction with people from all walks of life. And even though I think that his philosophy is built on a shaky ground, by no means I think that his rules for life are not valuable. My life has gotten better thanks to him. So, okay, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any other comments or if you could recognize which part I got it wrong, then please let me know down in the comments. I would love to fix it and learn it. So, I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.